Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new deep dive on the Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Kim.
Today, we're taking a pretty big step away from our usual discussions about plant-based recipes or the latest in sustainable fashion.
We are.
We are heading somewhere much colder, much higher, and, frankly, much more mysterious.
We're doing a compassionate, vegan perspective deep dive into the natural world, specifically focusing on conservation and the incredibly delicate balance within our high-altitude ecosystems.
That's right. We often talk about compassion for animals in our daily choices, what we eat, what we wear. But today we're looking at compassion on a macro scale.
It's a fundamental question we're asking. How do we protect a species that is literally living on the edge of existence, both, geographically and genetically?
Exactly. And I have to say, looking at the absolute mountain of research we have for today's topic, from Stanford University genomics to field work in the Gobi Desert, this discussion is going to give everyone pause for thought.
Oh, I knew that was coming. I saw you writing that down before we started recording.
I can't resist. But honestly, it is the perfect subject for animal lovers.
I'll give you a pass on the puns today because really the subject matter is just so important. We are talking about the snow leopard, Panthera uncea.
The ghost of the mountains.
And that name, that moniker, it isn't just poetic, it's a biological reality. These animals are so elusive, so perfectly camouflaged that you could be standing, 5 meters from a cliff face and not even realize a 100-pound apex predator is staring right back at you.
It gives me chills just thinking about it. But that ghost status hasn't protected them from the very real threats of the modern world.
Not at all.
We are looking at a species that is technically listed as vulnerable, and it's facing a trifecta of dangers: climate change, habitat fragmentation, and a very complex conflict with humans.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to sit here and tell you how cute they are.
Although, spoiler alert, they are devastatingly cute.
They really are. But we're going to unpack the science. We have brand new research published just a few months ago, in late 2025, about their genetics. We have reports from the WWF, fieldwork data from the Gobi, and updates from sanctuaries in the UK and Pakistan.
We're going to look at why their DNA is currently flashing this huge warning sign, how the climate emergency is physically squeezing their home, and the specific, non-violent, compassionate ways humans are trying to save them.
Because as vegans, that's what we want to know, right? How do we coexist with a predator? How do we save the leopard without harming the sheep?
It's a really complex ethical puzzle. So let's just jump straight in. Segment 1, meet the snow leopard. What makes this cat so physiologically special?
Well, you have to start with the environment. We aren't talking about the savannas of Africa or the jungles of India. We are talking Central Asia, the Himalayas, Xinjiang, the Tibetan Plateau.
So altitudes of 3,000 meters and above.
It's an extreme environment. The air is thin, so oxygen is scarce, the temperatures are well below freezing, and the terrain is just incredibly treacherous.
So they're basically built for an extreme sport that never, ever ends.
Exactly. Every inch of them is adapted for this. Let's start with the coat. It's thick, it's a white-gray color with those beautiful black rosettes. It's not just for warmth. It is the ultimate camouflage against rocky slopes and snow.
And the tail. I was reading the anatomical breakdown, and their tail is almost 1 meter long.
It's massive, and it serves a dual purpose that is just fascinating. First, it's a counterbalance.
Right, for balance when they're jumping.
Exactly. When you're running full tilt across a sliding scree slope or leaping between jagged rocks, that tail acts like a tightrope walker's pole. It shifts their center of gravity midair so they don't, tumble to their death.
But the second purpose is the one that really resonates with the compassionate side of our audience.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best part. When they sleep, they curl up and wrap that thick, furry tail around their face like a scarf.
It's a built-in blanket.
A built-in blanket. It protects their nose and lungs from the freezing air while they sleep. It's such a cozy image for such a rugged, tough animal.
And then you have the paws. They're described in the literature as disproportionately large.
They are natural snowshoes. It's simple physics.
Right.
If you exert force on a small surface area in deep, soft snow, you just sink.
Right, what hikers call post-holing.
Exactly that. A snow leopard's weight is distributed over these massive fur-covered paws, which lets them stay on top of the snow crust while their prey, or, a human researcher might sink right in.
They're also athletic powerhouses. I saw a statistic that said they can leap up to 15 meters horizontally.
15 meters. That is the length of a bus and a half.
Incredible.
Their hind legs are just incredibly powerful. They have to be. In that terrain, you can't really chase prey for miles. You have to ambush it from above in one explosive movement.
But here is something that I think our listeners, especially those who might view carnivores with a bit of fear, will find really interesting. There's a purr factor.
Yes. This blew my mind when I first learned it. Taxonomically, they are big cats, right? Like lions and tigers. But they can't roar.
They can't. Why is that?
It's all about the physiology of their throat, specifically the larynx and the hyoid apparatus. They physically cannot produce a roar. Instead, they purr, mew, growl, and yowl.
And they also make that other sound, the chuffing.
Right, chuffing. It's this non-aggressive, sort of friendly puffing sound they use with each other. It completely changes how you perceive them.
It does. You imagine this ferocious beast, but then you hear about Lovely, a rescue leopard in Pakistan.
Lovely is such a great example. She's in a sanctuary in Gilgit-Baltistan. When her caretakers approach her, she doesn't hiss or threaten them. She purrs.
It's a reminder that these aren't monsters. They're animals with complex behaviors and even gentle dispositions when they aren't, in hunting mode.
Of course, we do have to acknowledge their ecological role. They are the apex predator.
They're the indicator species for what are called the water towers of Asia.
Mm-hmm. If the snow leopards are healthy, the high-altitude ecosystem is healthy. Their main diet consists of the blue sheep, also known as burrell, as well as Argali sheep, ibex, marmots, and hares.
And from an ecological perspective, even though it's hard for us as vegans to think about predation, they are necessary.
Right. Oh, absolutely essential. Without the snow leopard, the herbivores, like the blue sheep, would completely overgraze the alpine plants.
And those plants are crucial.
Crucial not just for land stability preventing landslides, but for the local people who rely on them for medicine and for fuel. If the leopards disappear, the whole balance collapses, the grass goes, and the mountain itself degrades.
So saving the leopard is saving the mountain.
In a very real sense, yes.
But here is where it gets really interesting and a little bit worrying. Let's unpack the genetic crisis. You mentioned a study from Stanford.
Yes, this was published on October 7th, 2025. It's really cutting-edge stuff. For a long time, we didn't know much about their DNA because they are so hard to find.
Right.
Before the study, only 4 snow leopards had ever been fully sequenced.
4. That is a tiny sample size. You can't really draw broad conclusions from just 4 individuals.
You can't. But Stanford, along with researchers from 11 countries, managed to sequence 41 genomes, 35 from the wild and 6 from zoos.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge leap in data.
A massive leap. And what they found was that snow leopards have the lowest genetic diversity of all the big cats, even lower than cheetahs.
Whoa. I thought cheetahs were the poster child for low genetic diversity.
Oh.
We always hear about how cheetahs are practically clones of each other because they went through a bottleneck.
And that's the key difference. Cheetahs went through a population bottleneck, a huge crash in numbers where almost everyone died, and the few survivors had to inbreed.
Okay.
The Stanford study suggests snow leopards didn't crash. Instead, they have just existed in a small, stable population for a very, very long time.
So they've always been rare.
Exactly. They've always been the ghosts on the fringes. And because of that long history of being a small population, they've undergone something called purging.
That sounds ominous.
It sounds bad, but it's actually a survival mechanism. They have a low homozygous load. Basically what that means is, over thousands of years, individuals with bad mutations, genetic defects, they died out naturally.
Ah, so the bad genes were weeded out over time.
Precisely. So what's left is a gene pool that is small, yes, but relatively free of harmful genetic defects. They are healthy despite the lack of variety.
Okay, so they are specialized survivors. What's the problem then? If they're healthy, what's the danger?
The problem is adaptability. Low diversity means you have a very limited genetic toolkit. If the environment stays the same, they are fine. They are masters of the cold, rocky mountains.
But if the environment changes?
If the environment changes rapidly, say, due to the climate crisis, they just don't have the genetic variation to adapt quickly.
It's like having a wardrobe full of the best winter coats in the world, but suddenly it's summer. You have nothing to wear.
That is a perfect analogy. Katie Solari, the lead researcher from Stanford, put it bluntly. They are not well situated to deal with the changes coming their way. They are hyper-specialized for a world that is, frankly, disappearing.
Which brings us directly to the climate and habitat emergency.
Mm-hmm.
We have another study here from Scientific Reports, published in April 2025, specifically looking at the Xinjiang region in China.
And Xinjiang is so critical because it borders 8 countries. It's this massive corridor for these cats to move between populations.
The researchers used a model called BioMo-D2 to predict how the habitat will shift in the future. And they found something about water, right?
They did. This was fascinating. They found that the distance to water was the #1 variable determining where leopards live. It contributed 58% to the model.
More than half.
Yeah. These cats need to be near reliable water sources. But as glaciers melt and rainfall patterns change, those water sources are becoming completely unpredictable.
And what are the projections? I mean, if we keep burning fossil fuels, what happens to their home?
Well, it's a tale of 2 futures. Under a low-emission scenario, what scientists call SSP-126, their habitat remains relatively stable. We can still save it.
Okay, there's hope.
There is. But under a high-emission scenario, SSP-585, which is kind of the business-as-usual track by the 2070s, their suitable habitat declines significantly. Specifically, the Altai Mountains and the Tian Shan ranges are most at risk.
And it's not just that the snow melts, it's what we call the squeeze effect.
Right. This is so important to understand. As the world warms, the tree line moves up the mountain.
So forests are growing where alpine meadows used to be.
Exactly. Snow leopards don't like deep forests. They need those open, rocky cliffs to hunt. But common leopards, the ones we see in Africa and India, love forests.
Oh, so the common leopards are moving up.
Common leopards and wolves are moving up, competing for the same food. And at the same time, because the lower pastures are drying out from the heat, farmers are moving their livestock herds higher up the mountain.
So the snow leopard is being squeezed from below by trees, by other predators, and by livestock. And the top of the mountain is, well, running out of oxygen. There's nowhere left to go.
Precisely. They are running out of room. And this leads us to the most immediate and maybe the most tragic threat: conflict.
This is the hard part for us to talk about, but we have to face it. The WWF estimates that between 221 and 450 snow leopards are killed every single year.
And more than half of those are retaliatory killings by farmers.
We have to look at this with compassion for everyone involved, not just the leopard. Imagine you are a subsistence farmer in Gilgit-Baltistan or Mongolia. Your entire livelihood, your ability to feed your children, is tied up in a small herd of sheep or goats.
We have the story of Satara from Gilgit-Baltistan.
Her story is just heartbreaking. She lost all 6 of her sheep in a single night to a snow leopard attack.
All 6, that's 3 to 4 years of hard work, of saving, just destroyed in a few hours. She was apparently bedridden with depression for days because she didn't know how she would survive.
From a vegan perspective, we mourn the loss of the sheep first. That is a tragedy in itself. But we can also understand, why a farmer in that moment of desperation and rage might want to kill the leopard.
Exactly. It's not done out of malice. It's done out of survival and fear and grief. But killing the leopard isn't the solution. It pushes a vulnerable species closer to extinction, and it doesn't actually solve the underlying livestock management issue.
And it's not just the farmers. It's infrastructure. We have this story from the biologist Dan O'Neill, who was tracking leopards in the Gobi Desert.
Dan O'Neill's work is fantastic. He talks about a leopard they nicknamed the Wanderer. This cat was trying to cross a huge distance between 2 mountain ranges to find a mate, which, remember, is crucial for that genetic diversity we talked about.
He was blocked.
He was blocked by a fence.
Just a fence.
Just a simple fence. Roads, railways, mining infrastructure, these things fragment the habitat. If the cats can't cross these barriers to find each other, the populations become isolated genetic islands. Inbreeding gets worse, and the species just slowly fades away.
Okay, so what do? We've laid out the problem. Genetics, climate, conflict. Now we need the solutions. And I love this next segment because it combines high tech with, well, deep compassion.
It really does. Let's talk about the project in Pakistan involving the WWF and LUM. That's the Lahore University of Management Sciences. They are using AI for coexistence.
This is so cool. They've set up solar-powered cameras at 3,000 meters altitude.
Which is not easy, by the way. They had massive issues with trial and error. They talk about batteries freezing and dying in the winter cold. Landslides were taking out the solar panels. But they persisted.
And the AI part, what does it do?
So the camera has software that has been trained to recognize a snow leopard. When it detects one, it doesn't just record it. It sends a text message to the village.
A text message, like heads up leopard in the area.
Exactly that. It gives the farmers a warning, a heads up, so they can go out and move their livestock into predator-proof corrals before an attack happens.
That is brilliant. It's preventative. It prevents the violence before it even starts. The sheep are safe, the leopard doesn't get shot, and the farmer keeps their livelihood.
It wasn't perfect at first, though. The AI had to learn. There's a funny anecdote about a conservationist named Asif Iqbal.
Oh, I read this.
He was wearing a thick white fleece jacket, and the AI identified him as both a human and an animal.
To be fair, a thick fleece at 3,000 meters does make you look a bit like a sheep.
It does. But the tech is getting better and better. The biggest hurdle, though, was actually community buy-in.
Right. The locals were suspicious.
They were very suspicious. They thought the cameras were for spying, or that they wouldn't really help. People were cutting the wires or throwing blankets over the lenses.
So how did they turn that around?
By showing it works, and by involving the community directly in the project. And that leads to the other major solution that works hand in hand with the tech, insurance.
This seems so simple, but it's just revolutionary. I read about this in the context of Mongolia and Nepal.
It's a community-based livestock insurance scheme. Farmers pay a very small premium into a local fund, and if they lose an animal to a leopard, they get compensated financially.
So the economic blow that leads to the retaliation is just gone.
Or at least significantly cushioned. It completely shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, a dead sheep doesn't mean starvation for the farmer's family. It means filing an insurance claim.
It turns conflict into collaboration.
That's the perfect way to put it. We're seeing herders like Buran Yam in Mongolia, who used to lose animals to leopards, now working as rangers and ambassadors for the cats.
That's the shift we need, from enemy to guardian. And we are seeing real results, right? I mean, look at Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan is a beacon of hope. Their snow leopard numbers, the urbis as they call them, have doubled in 3 decades. They have between 152 and 189 cats now.
And the urbis is a national symbol there. It's on their coat of arms.
It is. And they are leaning into ecotourism. They're realizing that people like you and me and our listeners will pay good money to come and try to spot a goose of the mountain. A live leopard is worth infinitely more to the local economy than a dead one.
It creates jobs for guides, for drivers, for homestays. It's a completely vegan-friendly economic model that relies on the animals thriving in their natural habitat.
Absolutely.
I want to get personal for a minute. We've talked about the species as a whole, but let's talk about individuals. There's some leopard stories that really touched me while researching this.
You have to start with Pav.
Pav, the UK star.
Pav was a legend. He lived at the Lakeland Wildlife Oasis in Cumbria. He passed away just recently in October 2025 at the age of 19.
Which is incredibly old for a snow leopard.
Incredibly old. He was basically the great-grandfather of the captive population. He fathered cubs, grand-cubs, great-grand-cubs. He even appeared in the film The Golden Compass.
No way. I did not know that was him.
That was Pav. But my favorite thing about him was his personality. His keeper said he was not the smartest cat.
Laughs. Oh no, poor Pav.
There's a story where he got a piece of mince stuck on his nose, and instead of just licking it off, he just kept looking up at the ceiling, completely confused about where the smell of meat was coming from.
That is just adorable.
He was a gentle soul, and even in death, he's contributing. His DNA has been donated to Nature's Safe, which is a cryogenics charity, to help preserve that genetic diversity we talked about earlier.
So his legacy literally lives on in a deep freeze.
It does. And then we have Little Lady.
The new generation, born in May 2025 at the Big Cat Sanctuary in the UK. Her parents are Layla and Yarko.
And these captive breeding programs, they can be controversial in some circles, but for a species like this, on the brink, they are an insurance policy. If the wild population were to crash, we have a lifeboat.
And finally, a story that sounds really sad at first, but is actually a positive sign. The old leopard of Chitral.
Yes. This happened just this month, January 2026. A snow leopard was found dead in Chitral, Pakistan. And initially, everyone feared the worst poaching.
But the autopsy told a different story.
It did. No bullet wounds. The cat was over 12 years old. It was missing teeth. And it died of natural causes, what looked like severe diarrhea and old age.
So why is that good news?
Because it means that cat lived a full, natural life in the wild. It managed to avoid poachers, it avoided retaliatory killings, and it survived the harsh elements for over a decade.
It proves that conservation is working.
Yes. Leopards are living long enough to die of old age in their own homes. That's a huge victory.
That is a really profound way to look at it. It's a victory for the conservationists and for the communities who are learning to live alongside them.
It is.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener tuning in?
It means we are at a crossroads. As the biologist Dan O'Neill said, and this quote really stuck with me, We are the first species in our planet's geological history to single-handedly cause a mass extinction.
That's heavy.
It is, but he follows it with, could we be the first to end one?
I love that. We broke it, but we have the tools, the science, the AI, the compassion to start fixing it.
We do, but it requires action. It requires all of us.
So here is the call to action for our listeners. First, symbolic adoptions. The WWF and other organizations allow you to adopt a snow leopard. That money goes directly to those AI cameras we talked about and to the insurance schemes for farmers.
It's the most direct way to help Satara save her sheep and help the leopard stay alive at the same time.
Second, if you travel, think about where your money goes. Ecotourism in places like Kazakhstan or Mongolia or Ladakh in India directly supports the communities that live with these cats. It shows them that the world cares, that these animals are valuable alive.
And finally, just spread the word. Share this deep dive. Talk about the ghost of the mountains. The more people who know about their genetic fragility and the climate threat they face, the more political will we can build to protect their home.
Absolutely. We hope you spotted something new today in our conversation.
And we hope it inspires you to act in whatever war you can.
It's time for us to leopard crawl out of here.
Oh, Sam, you had to get one more in.
I had to. Thanks for listening to Vegan Stuff with Caavakushi. Stay compassionate, everyone.